Hello, everyone. Denver Riggleman here. Great to see you. Happy to be here on the MeidasTouch Network. I am a former congressman from Virginia. I'm a former senior technical advisor to the January 6th committee, and I wanted to talk about phones today. I'm sure everybody has seen the reporting about Jack Smith having Donald Trump's phones. My guess is they have a lot of phones that they've exploited, but I want to talk about the combination of what can be on a phone, what can be exploited, how it's done, and how that's blended with things like call detail records or social media data or interviews. So hopefully I can help you see through why it's so important to exploit phones, especially for people who might be involved in nefarious activities. So first, let's talk about the phone itself. Now, whatever device that you have, there's certain types of software, certain types of devices that can be used to get into a phone. It's especially easy if you have the passwords and you actually have the permission of those individuals to get into the phones. So let's go with that assumption. Now, in a phone, as you know, are all your file structures, all your contacts. So there's just so many things that you can actually look at on the telephone to see where data might be stored, what type of files might have been downloaded, what text haven't been deleted. Actually, you could have apps that are still open, like Signal apps, other encrypted apps, chat apps, Twitter or X, or you could have something like True Social on there. So again, your phone really is your life. And if you can actually access somebody else's phone, what you can find out and what you could glean is absolutely incredible. Now, you hear about murder cases or you hear about, other types of theft or fraud, and where phones sort of open up the whole envelope of data on what they can find. So when you're looking at Jack Smith, looking at Donald Trump's telephone, what might he expect to see? Now, a lot of people are talking about Twitter DMs. They're talking about things like that. But there's something even more important is who is he talking to that might be talking to other actors that are nefarious. So let's do an example. Let's do a second order effect sort of example. Say Donald Trump is talking to Dan Scavino. Well, we could have Dan Scavino's call detail records. What if it shows Dan Scavino talking to a member of a nefarious group that was involved in January 6th? That's pretty interesting. So now you have Donald Trump talking to Dan Scavino or in constant contact with Dan Scavino, and Dan Scavino talking to a group that could be nefarious. Now, that's not a direct connection, but it's damn close. I think what people need to see is those second and third order effects are really important. How about this? Say Roger Stone's assistant is talking to some other type of a Proud Boy or Oath Keeper. So say the Proud Boy or Oath Keeper contacts Roger Stone's assistant, Kristen Davis. Kristen Davis contacts Roger Stone. Roger Stone contacts Donald Trump. Again, you have this line of inquiry that you can go down on why is it that there's sort of a direct connection when you're looking at the first, second, and third order effects, but always it seems to go back to Trump. Now, a lot of people can say, well, it could be that he wasn't aware of those conversations or weren't privy. That's true. However, there's massive amounts of circumstantial evidence, or if you see all those contacts going back to a certain individual, whether it's direct or first or second or third order, you want to make sure that you go down that pipeline. You want to look at every single one of those and talk to all those people. And guess what else you want to do? You want to get their phone records. Now, again, there's a difference between the device, right, a phone, and the actual call detail records. So I want everybody again to know that the call detail records are actually a compilation of all the calls you've made and the metadata associated with that, whether it's to, from, whether you actually answer the call, whether it went to voicemail, any of those types of information. This device is a lot different from actually the phone itself or from the call records themselves. So again, you have the phone, then you have the records of all your calls. The phone just has that data, which could have calls. Of course, it has calls in it. It has all kinds of great stuff in a phone, in this device. You wouldn't believe what I have in here. So what I'm trying to tell you is that by combining the device data, then you can combine call detail records. You can actually do something called link analysis, or you can do call chaining or frequency analysis, which means you can see how much or how many times one person has talked to another. Now, I'm doing this very quickly. You can see this is one take. I'm in my sweatshirt because I think this is very important to get out to the American people. So when you combine device data and you combine that with call detail records and you combine that with social media analysis and you combine that with interviews, oh my goodness, you have this four-legged stool of evidence that could be very powerful going forward. Now, when you're talking about call detail records and phones and who they're going, you're going down this path, and I'm talking link analysis and frequency analysis, who do they call and everything like that. There's another thing you can get if you have the proper authorities in your law enforcement, you can get geolocation data. So now you're getting pattern of life data. Where were they at? Almost exactly. It depends on what's in the phone. It depends on what's in the CDRs or what service provider that you're actually using. But you can get pretty close to an exact location of where somebody is while they're talking or where they're going, because the phone is part of you and it's tracking your movements. Now, I don't want you to get too excited, though, because it could be, what if Donald Trump practiced really good operational security? What if he was using other people's phones, which we know he did? What if he was using go-betweens, where he wasn't even using phones, just telling people what they want to do, and then they utilize their telephones to actually, push out whatever messaging that Donald Trump wants to do? So it could be, if it is really good operational security, you might not get everything you might want to see based on the fact that he's not using his telephone in a way that actually looks like it's a coordinating function, or it might be he's not using it at all. Now, how do I know these things? Because we've seen a lot of the call records. We've had over 500 call detail records. We delivered over 30 million lines of data to the archives, which to this point, I don't know if they're being used, which is sad, because what we have there is we have a frequency analysis and ability to look at centers of gravity. So now we went all the way from device, how you blend that with your call detail records, if it's your device, then actually how you look at centers of gravity, who are the most important in these massive networks. So when you have over 30 million lines of data, you can actually see who's very important. We can see Enrique Tarrio. We can see Stuart Rhodes. We can see all these individuals. There's a reason Mark Meadows and Roger Stones fought against the committee to receive the phone records. It's why they went and tried to stop us. And they did stop the committee. I'm not quite sure why we didn't fight harder, but I do believe that if we had gotten Mark Meadows and Roger Stone's phone records, even at the investigation level for the committee, just with the data we were allowed to see as a congressional committee, I think we could have even blown this case wide open. But that's what Jack Smith gets to do. He gets to see device data. He gets to see geolocation data. He gets to combine all that data. He gets to look at pattern of life, where people are when they're doing things. He gets to look at frequency analysis. Who do people talk to the most? He needs to look at, he gets to see centers of gravity. Who's the most important in these networks? That's what's so important about telephones. But again, I want to warn the American public. Sometimes you get into a phone, it doesn't give you what you need or just enough to keep going. So don't get your hopes up too high, but know when they're going down the data track, you can have some hope that something could happen that says, hey, I think we finally have sort of cracked the nut or the nugget of what's going on with Donald Trump, what's going on with the people beneath him. I mean, who knows what we'll see on the phone? Will we see comms with Roger Stone, with Alex Jones, with Mike Flynn, with Steve Bannon, with Sidney Powell, with Lynn Wood, with Patrick Byrne, with Mike Lindell? Will we see it with actually other rally planners? Don't know. I do know, though, that what we saw on telephones led me to believe that Donald Trump was very aware of what was going on around him. And, if he's such a stable genius, wouldn't he want to know everything that's going on around him? So anyhow, I hope this helped everybody going through why it's so important with cell phones. What we've already seen in the January 6th committee, which are millions of lines of data. You've seen the centers of gravity. You've seen the major players and the major working points, from the Proud Boys to the Oath Keepers, to rally planners, to fundraisers, to Trump's cabinet. You've seen these important connections. And my hope is that Jack Smith, when he gets into these phones, he can see even more of the connections that we identified in the January 6th committee. So everybody, it was great to see you. I'm hoping that this short video will at least give you an outline. Again, your hopes can be up. Don't get up too high. Wait to see what's in the data. Then we'll press forward and do the best we can on still this work, this important work around identifying and exposing those people responsible for January 6th. Thank you, and hope to catch you on the flip.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.